Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of M365 Voice. My name is Mike Manorani.
I'm Sarah Housie.
And I'm Antonio Mayo.
And we are ready today for another question from the jurors. It's been a while.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. How do organizations approach SharePoint news article comments? Do you disable them for your tenant?
I'll start, given that I've done many so same as you, Antonio, I guess, a lot of deployments with different clients. I typically, a lot of the percentage, high percentage, I would say 80% of most of my implementations, a lot of organizations and clients would ask me to disable comments, and a way to disable comments from the pages or news articles. So it's very common in my world.
I've seen the same thing where either I'm recommending to clients that they disable the comments, or they ask me to disable the comments or how to disable the comments. One of the reasons I've seen for that is if there are comments that are posted, there's often a concern about, well, who's going to answer the comment? Who has that responsibility to answer it in an official, authoritative way for the company? And if you don't answer it, does it look like you are just ignoring it or being negligent, or so there's that kind of concern.
Set up an expectation
for
the users that their comment. And I've had experience where when you, so maybe we should talk about where these comments exist. So when you create a new SharePoint news article, for example, in SharePoint Online, when you create that, if you don't have comments disabled for your tenant, the comments will automatically be turned on the bottom of the page. Like you have to click a slider to turn them off for every news article that you're going to publish. And the challenge that I've seen is you're supposed to get, whoever publishes the page initially is supposed to get an email with notification about the comment every time that a comment is left on the page. Then I have found myself that sometimes I don't always get a notification email. And if I move to a different role, or I leave the organization, there's no way in Power Automate for me to change the notification preferences for who gets notified or to transition it to someone else. So if I leave the organization, I can't transfer that to Mike as a responsibility. So then there might be comments that we don't know about. So then what happens?
The notifications just go into the ether. They just don't show up in anybody's mailbox.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, so if you want to take a step back, you've mentioned that the notifications, the comments can be turned off at the tenant level, just for the audience that by default they are turned on. So it's not a setting that you go and turn it on when you have a tenant, a new tenant, whatever. They are automatically turned on. So you're gonna have to, if you don't want it, then you have to turn it off at the tenant level. So you have to be a SharePoint admin, and you have to go to the admin center and turn off that setting for the pages.
And for everybody on the call, Mike, where exactly in the SharePoint admin center do they go, or turn it off?
So they'll have to go to the settings on the left nav, and then there is a section called pages. And under that, you have two options. One is to allow users to create pages, and the second checkbox is to allow commenting on modern pages. So you can turn that off, and when you turn it off, it is automatically off on every single pages library. So you don't have to.
And you can't turn it on for an article, it's just off. There are no comments.
There are no comments at all. Now, that's one option. That means that every single site and every single page's library is turned off. What if you get into a scenario when you got some sites where the owners would like their comments to be turned on and others don't want that? So when you do that, what's that?
That's when you use Yammer. Because I would say, I mean, for me, it seems like a natural choice. If you want to invite conversation about a news article or any other given topic, that's really Yammer's sweet spot. So I would rather frankly, turn off the comments from SharePoint Online pages in favor of, you can take a news article from SharePoint Online, promote it in Yammer, and then have a conversation about it taking place in Yammer.
Agreed. But we can give organizations the choices to turn off the comments for specific pages libraries. So you don't have to go to each page and turn it off one by one. So you can do that at the pages library level. That has to be done with a PowerShell though. There's no settings. If you go to the site pages settings, if you go anywhere in advanced settings, there are no options there to turn off the comments. But there is a PowerShell that you go and connect to that specific site, and then you turn off the comments on the pages. So
I didn't know that you could do that via PowerShell. So you do that for a pages library for a given site or a modern site collection, if you will. Have you done that for quite a few customers? Is it a fairly easy PowerShell script to run?
It is, yes. It is really, it's basically 2 or 3 lines of code that you can turn it off. And typically it is, I do it all the time because the organization realized after a while, I'm like, oh, we don't want that anymore. But some will still have the comments enabled and say, well, we still need it. So you just get a list of all the sites and you get an inventory, and then you just run the PowerShell against the one that you don't want them to be turned on.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that you could do that. So this is pretty helpful. So you can turn it off for the entire tenant. You can turn it off per pages library for each, hopefully, modern site collection. So for each site, or you can leave it on. One thing I do think is important is that if you are in a regulated industry, and I'm thinking FINRA regulated users or something like that, or in the healthcare industry, please keep in mind that if you enable things like SharePoint page comments, are you appropriately archiving, supervising, or doing your necessary controls on the text of the comments, just to make sure that you're covering the basis in terms of governance and policies and regulatory needs.
Right. That's a great point, because I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I don't think SharePoint comments show up in e-discovery searches either when you do go look for them. So that kind of provides a way to exchange information in a potentially regulated environment that cannot be discovered or retained, governed appropriately. So yeah, that can be a real concern in some organizations.
I think it can, because SharePoint from a licensing perspective, it's one licensing checkbox. So if you want to enable SharePoint Online for use, but you need to prevent comments, you'd have to disable the comments. I know some organizations, for example, until they're able to get their necessary regulatory controls in place, can't enable Yammer for some of those users until they have that in place, but that's a separate licensing checkbox. So there's a little bit more ability to control that. So I think it's important to think about the organizational stance you want to take on these SharePoint page comments and how you want to handle them.
Yeah, I can see that being it'll depend how organizations approach something like SharePoint news and SharePoint pages and comments. And what I mean is, if you're launching SharePoint pages and are really looking to increase user interaction in them, I could see people really wanting to turn on comments because it gives people the ability to participate in these news articles somehow. But if they are in a regulated industry, like you've said, and I think it could be a pretty easy decision to turn them off just globally at that point. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've seen some organizations approach launching SharePoint from the kind of engaged employee engagement side, collaboration side, and really wanted to foster that and see comments as a meaningful way to do that. But I've seen others approach launching SharePoint from we need to store information and be able to meet our regulatory policy requirements. And I think depending on how you're approaching it from, it can be either an easy decision or a hard decision to turn it off.
Right, I would agree. And keep in mind, if you want to move that conversation into Yammer, you can always add a Yammer web part to your SharePoint pages. So you could have your news article and then you could feature that Yammer conversation kind of sidebar style, so you can still have it in a joint view, even if you move that conversation to, in my opinion, a better suited platforms.
I've always liked that Yammer web part because I don't have to go somewhere else to participate in a conversation, right? I can have it on a SharePoint page and just like participate in it, contribute to it right from there, as opposed to, oh, I have to go get to Yammer and then I can participate in the conversation. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's a nicer option if you can roll out Yammer.
So here's the thought. Mike, what happens if you turn off comments via the pages library via PowerShell or at the tenant level? Does it blow away all of the previous comments? I'm assuming it doesn't display them, but they're still there in the system.
You won't be able to comment on a page anymore, but the previous ones will be there. They're not lost. So you still can see them, but you cannot comment anymore.
So you can see them. There's no way to basically remove them from being visible on the page unless you go in and delete the comments themselves.
That is correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Do you have the ability for someone else to go and delete them? So for example, if certain person A posts an article, person B comments on it, and person C, who's in some sort of an oversight capacity, wants to go and delete comments, can that other person go and delete somebody else's comments?
I don't think so. I don't think that.
So.
Yeah. Otherwise, just we can delete each other's comments, I guess.
Yeah. So is it necessarily the person that posted a comment that has to go delete it?
If you are the owner of that comment, to delete your own comment?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think you can do that.
Sorry, I'm asking, do you have to require, if you want to delete all comments, let's say,
Yeah.
you need the person that posted the comment to go delete them, or can someone like a site collection admin go and delete comments from someone else?
You can. I don't know if the UI you can. I doubt it. You can, but through PowerShell, yes, you can manage that. You can delete all the comments.
Okay. Okay.
But that means that you are connecting as an admin.
That's right.
Mike knows the PowerShell commands to do all things.
Yeah.
We should do an episode on Mike's top 20 PowerShell commands.
That's a great idea.
Oh yes, I do. Yes, that would be good actually. I have a whole bunch of libraries of PowerShell.
Well, I think that this has been a great topic. I think it's important for companies to think about, and it's not too late, I think, to make some good governance decisions about SharePoint comments, whether you've had it enabled and now you want to take steps to turn it off. I think it isn't too late to look at that, but just think about it carefully from an HR perspective, a legal perspective, and an employee engagement perspective, because if you're going to turn off that path for your employees to engage, you should open another door somewhere else.
Yeah, Yammer possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, love the topic. It's always good to chat about something different and different experiences. Thank you for watching us, and thank you both for being here. Have a good day.
Bye.